For more, let's bring in Committee to Unleash Prosperity co-founder and former Trump senior economic advisor, Steve Moore. Steve, it's fine and dandy, I suppose, when a Republican wants to take ownership of private companies. But what happens when a Democrat is back in the White House? Also, how are you going to get the government out of this Intel stake or any other additional stakes that it takes? And the government's motives are quite different than that of a private company driven by profitability and growing a business. And what disadvantage does, say, AMD or any other chip company have when it's going up against the federal government? This is everything that Reagan and Thatcher preached against.
Well, it's not going to be a surprise, Dagan and Guy, that I am very much opposed to this idea. I've always been a fan of privatization of the government selling off its assets, not buying assets, and certainly not picking winners and losers in the free market system. You know, I think back over the last 30 years when we made a very smart decision as a country where we basically said we're going to let the internet, we're going to get the government out of the way, we're going to let the government, the internet flourish without it. And what happened? We spawned hundreds and hundreds of companies. Many of them became trillion-dollar companies. The United States totally dominated the internet age. I believe if we just let the free enterprise system work, we're going to dominate the microchip age, the robotics age, the age of artificial intelligence. The idea that the government is going to pick winners and losers here, the problem, you know, is this. The government always picks the losers, not the winners.
I mean, that is probably, they're pretty bad at that winners thing. Steve, it's interesting, though, because we just played some of the sound we heard there in the report from Max Gordon that Howard Lutnick made the statements that he did, hinting at more of this, not just Intel, but now beyond into the defense sector. And then this morning on this network, you saw maybe something of a walk back from the Treasury Secretary. Was Lutnick over his skis on this? Does he know something that Bessent doesn't? What's going on here?
Well, I hope he was over his skis because that's a terrible idea. I mean, we're going to have government take ownership of Boeing, and we're going to take, you know, McDonnell Douglas and all the hundreds of companies that make up the military-industrial complex. I think that's, you know, a fool's errand to go in that direction. So let's hope not. I mean, listen, we are, what is being talked about here is the sort of idea of a national industrial policy. And that's exactly, Guy, what Europe has done for the last 30 years in Japan. And we've beaten the pants off those countries. Our stock market's gone up 40-fold, and theirs have been basically stagnant. We don't want to create a corporate welfare state in America. It's failed in Japan and Europe, and we've really been the winner. So why would we adopt the policies of the losers?
Exactly. If you like this, then you must have liked Bidenomics and wanted a giant dollop of Mussolini on top of it, because this is the beginning of economic fascism, which is corporatism. But I digress.
Bernie Sanders is a fan of it, so that tells you something. I want to move on to the Fed, though. Following Fed Governor Lisa Cook's attempted ouster, sort of unclear what the status is there, former Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, she's weighing in, lambasting the president in a Financial Times op-ed today, writing that this shakeup, this attempted firing, quote, represents a direct attempt to politicize the Fed, intimidate its leadership, and bend monetary policy to the president's will.
Adding, quote, Congress must defend the Fed's independence. The courts must strike down this unlawful power play, and the financial community must raise its voice against a direct assault on the credibility of the dollar itself. Well, Steve, this Federal Reserve has been losing money since, 2022, and illegally funding the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And it's, look no further than Jay Powell politicizing it, and then some last year when he served up a giant Kamala rate cut before the election. So I don't know what Janet Yellen's talking about, but she spent 4 years as Biden's Treasury Secretary lying through her teeth about how horrible the economy was when Biden took office, which was a bold-faced lie.
Well, Dagan, you're exactly right. And I would just add to that that no one has more politicized the Fed over the last 50 years than Jerome Powell. I mean, my goodness, everything he's done has been try to put a figurative dagger in Trump's back. He cut interest rates in the last 6 months of the Biden administration. Gee, I wonder if he was doing that to maybe put a thumb on the scale to help Biden and or Kamala Harris be elected president. And then when Trump comes in and inflation is going down, inflation is lower today than it was when he lowered interest rates when the Democrats were in charge. That's an overtly political maneuver by him. And then, of course, all his speeches have been really very vicious attacks against the Trump economic agenda, which is very unusual for a Fed chairman. So who started this kind of political war? I think it was Jerome Powell. And by the way, his performance as Fed chair has been pretty lousy. He's the one who let prices go up 22% in 4 years under Biden.
It also kind of seems to me like the evidence suggesting that the woman Trump has tried to fire here committed a crime should be relevant to this whole conversation. And I guess we just got to glided past that one.
Maybe Janet can suggest that Lisa step aside and at least recuse herself from any work on the FOMC while this is investigated, since it appears to be mortgage fraud.
I completely agree with that. And listen, I believe the person is innocent until proven guilty. She hasn't been proven guilty of anything. But there is this allegation against her, and there seems to be evidence that she did create mortgage fraud. Here's why this is important. I was on another network a couple of days ago, and they're, oh, this is just like, this is a minor infraction. No, it's not a minor infraction. You can't have somebody on the Federal Reserve Board who was guilty of mortgage fraud. This is what created, Dagan, the 2008 meltdown in the country's economy and the mortgage meltdown. People were lying on their mortgage applications. If she is guilty of that, now if she's not guilty of it, why doesn't she show us her mortgage forms? And we can make an assessment of that. Now she's just playing like she's the victim.
Proof those regulators still haven't cleaned up the mess. Steve Moore, thank you. Great to see you.
Okay, thanks, guys.